Welcome back to the Max Reality. If you've seen my face before, then you know the drill, but if you're new here, my name's Morgan, and I love talking all things reality TV. And at the moment, we are in the midst of what I am dubbing Shark Fest, and today we are moving on to episode 3 of season 15 of Shark Tank. Our sharks for episode 3 are Barbara, Kevin, Lori, and Mark, along with guest shark Michael Rubin, founder of Fanatics. Our first pitch of the night is Bought It. Entrepreneurs Maurice and Joel are looking for $150,000 for 10% of their AI-run bot. I'm gonna do my best to explain this the best I can, the best I know how. So the whole idea of this business is that a lot of online traffic right now for concert tickets, reservations, shopping that has like online drops ends up all getting taken up by bots who buy it and then resell it. Their idea is to put the bots in the hands of consumers instead. So you use their website to set up your own personal bot that helps you get concert tickets or helps you get shoes that are dropping at a certain time. That's it. That's how it works. They gave us pricing for the product in the tank, but when I was writing my notes and looking at their website, it seems the prices have changed. So I will give you their new pricing. Like most things nowadays, it is a subscription model. They have a standard for $9.99 a month, standard plus for $25 a month, pro for $99 a year, and then pro plus for $275 a year. They also said that they have some other upsell items. I don't know what those are because I'm not gonna sign up for this. They don't really have a cost to make on this that they give us. I mean, everything has a cost to make, but since it's just them with this website and everything, they didn't really give us like a breakdown of costs, but the pricing's what you get. So when they came into the tank, they had been in business 3 months and had done $30,000 in sales. Again, they didn't really say if they were profitable or not because we didn't talk at all about costs in the normal way we do. So who knows? The negotiations begin and we immediately learn that Kevin actually has a very strong, moral opinion about bots, which I was really surprised about.
What does it say about us if we're supporting this for those that think you're cheating? Well, how do you feel about the world knowing that Michael Rubin invested in bots?
Michael responds to Kevin by talking about how they're trying to fight bots at Fanatics, but he'd rather have just a single consumer get to them with a bot than a big business buy out all their stuff. Mark always loves one of the new technology things like this. He says he's really interested in all the different ways this technology can end up being used and thinks it'll even get more popular as AI grows. So he makes the first offer of $150,000 for 20%.
Before you guys respond to that, Mark, would you have me as your partner?
No, I like this. I want these guys all to myself.
In retaliation, Michael decides to undercut Mark 5% and makes his own offer.
What'd you offer him?
150 for 20.
Great, I'll do 150 for 15% then.
Hey, listen, I love it. It's the battle of the billionaires. Let's go.
First, we have Mark with, you can work with a guy who doesn't understand or a guy who does. And Michael's all like, that's fair, but I really want to put this in the hands of consumers. And I want to learn from you as much as you can learn from me. Then Michael's all like, I offered to partner with you, but if you think you're better than me, and then Mark starts bringing up his shot clock, and Michael says, don't be bullied by him. You have a better shark anyway. After the squabble finally settles, it's really time for the guys to make a decision, say something, and their first idea is to just be like, any other sharks interested? Mark is obviously very annoyed by this, but now the other sharks take their turns to go out one by one. Barbara doesn't want to fight the big guys, aka Michael and Mark, and she goes out giving us this great line.
But I won't compete with these big guys. They got the billions, I've got the millions. I'm out.
Lori thinks there are other sharks that are more able to help them and also encourages them to hurry up and make a deal, or else their deal might swim away. Last, we have Kevin coming in trying to remind us that he apparently has morals. He says the financial markets he works in are highly regulated, and a lot of them don't agree on whether or not this AI technology is necessarily fair, so because of that, he goes out. The entrepreneurs try taking a different approach, seeing if they can get Michael and Mark to come together, and Michael says that for the greater good of their business, Mark should really partner with him. This then leads us through the most confusing, nonsensical back and forth negotiation that I've seen this season. So Mark starts to give in to the idea of partnering with Michael, but he points out that they're going to need more equity if they have two sharks. The entrepreneurs bring up the idea of 20%. But that is what Mark was asking for by himself. Michael then suggests upping the money to $175 for 20%, which again makes no sense because why are we upping the money but not the equity? Then the entrepreneurs say, how about $300,000 for 20%? Again, making absolutely no sense. Everybody just keeps upping the money. And Mark's sitting here like, I said the word equity. What is happening? Obviously, both Michael and Mark immediately shut down the idea of $300,000 for 20%, and Mark finally just says to the guys that they just need to make them an offer that they can't refuse. So the guys come back with $500,000 for 25%.
Okay, now you've gone way backwards very quickly. You're about to lose this because your math isn't making sense.
So then Joel turns to Maurice and is like, you didn't mean to say $500,000. And what it sounded like Maurice said in response was, you're right, I meant $350,000. But then Joel turns to the sharks and says $300,000 for 25%. Mark still doesn't love this offer because math. And Michael suggests $300,000 for 30%. We're finally getting back to an area that makes sense. Then Maurice tries to say $300,000 for 20%. It's like, where are you? Luckily, he has his friend Joel, who is like, that's a fair offer. And they end up making a deal with Michael and Mark for $300,000 for 30%. Because of this partnership, the sharks start being like, Cuban and Reuben. And because of that, we learned that Mark opened a bar when he was a senior in college, and the first sandwich they ever served was called the Cuban Reuben. So, fun fact. So, I don't really have a lot to say about this business. This just really isn't my thing, and I'd prefer to just stop thinking about it, honestly. The only thing I will say is I do think it's good they changed their prices. Originally, when they were in the tank, they were saying that the standard package was $40, and they had a $300 pro package. But they've broken it down into the 4 different pricing models, and I think that's probably a better idea. And that's really all I got. That's all I got for this one. Our second pitch of the night is Wellingtons. Entrepreneurs Anastasia and Aria are looking for $200,000 for 10% of their frozen Wellington business. Overall, it's a pretty self-explanatory product. They make and prep the Wellington for you so that all you have to do is put it in the oven and bake it for 35 minutes. They have all different types of Wellingtons, not just like the classic beef Wellington. They have cheeseburger, breakfast, hazelnut, and chocolate. They're all called wellies. They also have a little bite-sized line with buffalo chicken and cheeseburger welly bites.
Sharks, time to get some wellies in your bellies.
It's mostly sold on Good Belly. If you're not in an area that has a Good Belly like me, pretty much it's apparently Postmates with overnight shipping, and then they also sell it on their website. The pricing examples they give us are all for their classic welly. They retail it for $35 and it costs them $9.41 to make. Last year, their sales were $313,000 and $240,000 of it was from Good Belly by itself. However, they are not profitable. They actually lost $260,000 last year. First, we have Barbara chime in, and she wonders if they're going to try to move away from Good Belly and just go to their website, which they say is sort of their goal. And they're also considering moving into grocery stores, which I just... How many times do we have to talk about how little freezer space there is in grocery stores? Kevin is on the same train of thought and thinks that the only way that they're ever gonna start making money is if they just move completely direct to customer. Then Mark comes in actually giving them good suggestions on things they could do to improve their business, such as going to like event services or working with party planners. And after all this, they tell us that they just recently closed their first PO with a food service business. Why they didn't tell us that earlier as part of their sales, we'll never know. The food service business is a hotel and they're doing 200 units of the little welly bites. This also leads Mark to give us some excellent business advice as usual.
Make sure you guys get rooms at that hotel and all your friends and you go and buy all the bites, right?
Exactly.
Barbara then gets to ask one of her favorite questions. What are they actually looking for in a shark? They say they're looking for partnership, and support.
To do what specifically?
They clarify by saying they need help with access to distribution channels, co-packers, and they want to invest in their own operational setup. Unfortunately, though, none of the sharks are really interested in it. Barbara is the one who seems the most interested. She gets really conflicted because she's invested in a lot of other food businesses, but she's just not sure she can ultimately give them what they need. So she goes out. Apparently, Kevin sells sous vide meats on QVC, and he sees this as a competitor, so he goes out.
Wow, you're not going to try to do Wonderful Wellies, are you?
Lori gives a classic, I have to be passionate about the product, and I'm just not. Apparently, she doesn't eat a lot of meat, so she goes out. Mark talks to them about how it's hard that they're in a place where they have a great product, but how they're selling them just isn't working, and it's just not something he wants to get involved with, so he also goes out. Michael agrees with Mark that the product has potential, but obviously the business model just isn't working right now. He also agrees with Kevin that they just need to go completely direct to consumer if they ever want to make any money. On top of all that, it's just a very young and small business, so Michael goes out. So unfortunately, the pair leave the tank without a deal. Final thoughts, I don't eat meat. I do know this is a very hard dish to make because of watching Gordon Ramsay, so if it does taste good, that's great. I saw very mixed reviews on their website, so if anybody's ever tried this, obviously I would love to know your experience in the comments. Our third pitch is glove wrap. Entrepreneurs John, Gavin, and Morgan are looking for $50,000 for 20% of their wrap that helps you break in your baseball glove. Here it is. So if you don't know, like I didn't know, when you get a baseball glove, you have to break it in. A lot of people just will use rubber bands or put the baseball under a bunch of heavy books, something like that. But instead, what they've invented is a band that is the exact width, shape, and thickness to wrap around your glove to easily break it in and form that perfect pocket shape. And this kid made my life so easy writing notes because when the sharks had questions, he had answers. He was ready to go. And I love this kid, especially because of the next, I'm getting ahead of myself. We're on glove wrap right now. They sell it on their website, Amazon, and then 6 mom and pop shops. Recently, they presented to a major retailer, aka Big 5, and they're having a meeting with them in a few weeks to talk about putting glove wrap next to where they sell their gloves. Apparently, Big 5 was the first retailer Michael ever sold to, so making connections. It cost them $3 to make, they wholesale it for $10, and they retail it for $19.99. They've sold 1,000 units, which is over $19,000 in lifetime sales. We get into the negotiation part, and off the bat, Michael asks the hard-hitting questions. He asks Morgan, what does she do for the business?
I keep everybody on track.
We love Morgan. And it's not just because we share a name. Unfortunately, though, things start to look down for our entrepreneurs. Barbara says that the glove wrap reminds her of one of those exercise bands. I don't know if y'all have seen them, but it's like a plastic band that you use to stretch, I'm pretty sure. And she was asking why people just wouldn't use that instead of the specific glove wrap. And I mean, they kind of answer that by being like, this is made for this, whereas that isn't. And like, I don't know what the comparison of thickness and size and all that is, but that's that. On her way out, though, she's like, you need to get Mark as your partner. I'm out, but get Mark.
Why would Mark be the partner, not me?
Oh, well, he'd make a better partner.
I think I'd be a better partner.
I could tell. I hardly know you, but I could tell.
I mean, look at.
Then we have Kevin, who's just so on brand, Kevin.
My problem with your deal is, and I insist on this in any deal from an 8-year-old, you gotta drop out and you gotta work for me full time.
Obviously, this is a joke, but nonetheless, Gavin is not dropping out of school, and Kevin is not investing in their business. Then we have Lori, who thinks that it's super clever, but thinks there are more sporty sharks that could help them out more than she can. Just when it seems all hope is lost, Michael is interested. He says he's not sure how big it's going to be, but he wants to invest in it because he thinks Gavin is a winner and he wants to be able to invest in anything Gavin does in the future. He says since he owns Fanatics, he'll be able to introduce them to big sports players and retailers. His only condition? Mark has to partner with him. And Mark is down, unlike the other time.
We have to be sharks. You realize that. $50,000 split between Michael and I for 22%.
And they make a deal with Mark and Michael for $50,000 for 22%. This is completely just an episode full of products that don't apply to me or that I don't use, but that's fine. We're powering through with what we can talk about. I feel like if it works, it's super great. Like Kevin, I think, said at one point, it's just a super simple product that works, and I personally have a soft spot for those in Shark Tank. They're my favorite. I love when like a small business like this comes in, values themselves well, like $50,000 for 20%. When was the last time we heard that? Probably sometime last season, but whatever. We don't hear it a lot is the point, and I have a soft spot in my heart for these kind of businesses, and I love when they make deals, and I love when they go on to do great things. So that's what I hope for the Glove Wrap team, that they all go on to do bigger and better and great things with Glove Wrap. Our last pitch of the night is Dating by Blaine. Blaine is looking for $100,000 for 2% of her online dating coach services. Before we can literally talk about anything, we have to talk about the logo because I don't understand. I have so many questions. When I look at this, it made me so angry the first time we were watching the show. I couldn't process anything else that was going on because I just kept staring at the logo and being like, I even made my own. I took my phone out and I got on my notes app and I drew the exact same logo in 4 seconds. And I need somebody to explain this. Why? I just don't understand. I don't understand. We can move on now. That's it. I just had to say it before we could talk about anything else. Okay, so I just went to her website and it seems like she has a normal logo now. So a round of applause because, I was really concerned. So her business is, like I said, a dating coach. There's not going to be really any pictures to show, but she offers online courses and also one-on-one coaching. She's the only full-time employee, but she does have some contractors who, I guess, offer dating advice to their customers. So we get a little breakdown of some of the things she offers and the prices. First, she has a dating masterclass course. It's pre-recorded videos, and then they get an included profile makeover. That course is $1,295. She also has a texting course that's $149, and then she has one-on-one coaching that is $6,295. That includes 6 45-minute sessions with her. And then we get into sales. She started in mid-2020, and she has $2.2 million in lifetime sales. Her first 6 months, she did $22,000. In 2021, she did $484,000. 2022, she did $1 million, and the projected for this year is $1.5 million. And yes, she is profitable because similar to the AI bot guys, it's kind of about her time or the things she puts into the business versus how much it costs necessarily to make each product, if that makes sense. So last year, for example, she said she did $1 million in sales and she profited $500,000. She said it would have been a lot more, but she had major one-time expenses. And they're not funny. It was just funny the way, it's just this whole pitch. This whole pitch is just a mess. She says that she needs a new iPhone in a car because she films her videos in her car. And that's just so funny to me. It's just why I get filming in your car is a big thing, I guess, but I don't know, this whole part was so funny to me, and maybe it shouldn't be, but it was. We then get into the negotiation part, and the questions and the things the sharks want to know, it just all of it is just such this it just gave me such a headache, but it's so funny. So first we start off with Lori, who wants to know why she doesn't also do this for women. She said from a marketing perspective, she just felt like she needed to narrow down who she was talking to, and then Barbara chimes in being like, they need the most help. Then we have Kevin, who asks the real questions that we are all wondering.
So what makes you the
They need
expert
the
of
most
love?
help.
Her reasoning is that she loves love. She talks about that as a kid, she was always interested in relationships. Then she lost her job during the pandemic, and her boyfriend suggested she should start selling a course because you don't need any money to start it and it's infinitely scalable. So then Barbara asks the next great-minded question from the sharks, which is anybody knocking you off? And it's like, what do you mean is anybody knocking you off? Dating coaches have been a thing since forever. Matchmakers, all of this. I don't know what she meant by that in any form that makes any sense. On top of that, though, Blaine claims to be the leader in this space. I I just want to know what she means by that. Because I don't know if she means dating coaches in general, because if she does, I find that very hard to believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, I'm not an expert. I've never used a dating coach, but I just don't feel like that's a true statement. I feel like it's one of those things that you just put on your website. You just say, like, I'm the leader in the dating coaches for men space. Like, what do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Finally, we start coming down to the world of logic. Michael brings up that the coach part isn't really what's going to be scalable. What's scalable is the different courses she's doing. Obviously, this brings up the next question of how many of those have you sold? And she has no idea. So Mark jumps in trying to help, saying he just wants to know the breakdown of last year's $1 million. So how much of the sales went to one-on-one coaching versus the texting classes? And again, she does not know. Mark tries to keep it moving though and asks if she just has any idea of the number of classes she sold last year. And again, she is just struggling so hard.
Can someone help me with some math?
Finally, after some help from Mark, she settles on having sold about 900 classes last year.
So Blaine, you're not too sharp on the numbers.
Michael gets to ask the age-old question, why do you need a shark? And Blaine says she wants a man that the men who apply for her dating classes would look up to. Men that would make them think, wow, he has it all.
Or she?
Blaine responds to that by saying what she really thinks would be the most helpful is having a guide on her team to say, it's okay that you need help with dating. And this starts an avalanche of the sharks going out. Michael says his biggest problem with it is that really she's just a consultant, and that's not really a scalable business. He also feels like dating companies, like the big ones, will just see this and want to integrate it as part of their app. That's almost exactly what he said, and I don't get this point, but it doesn't matter. He's out. Like, I don't know if he's saying they would put dating coach, like text services on their app or the specific classes. I just didn't quite get that, but again, it doesn't matter. He's out. So Mark says he sees why she needs help, which is great for him because I do not understand why she's on the Shark Tank, but he doesn't really explain it, so I don't get to know why he thought that. But anyway, he points out that it's a challenge to get from 900 to 9,000 classes sold, and he's upset that she only offered 2%. He said if she was really serious about getting a shark, she would have offered more, and he goes out. For now. Her response to this is since it's only $100,000, it makes a lot less downside for him to invest in this product.
When I make an investment, I'm not worried about the downside. I'm investing because I think there's a lot of upside.
Since we know numbers aren't her strongest point, Mark tries to explain it to her by saying that if she's making $1 million, his 2% isn't that much. Her rebuttal is, what if we make 10 million? Still not understanding that it's not much of an upside since it's still just 2%. He points out that he'd be getting $200,000 on a $100,000 investment. And again, that's if she gets 10 million in sales.
Blaine, numbers is not your strength.
Feelings are my strength.
Even though 2 of the men have gone out, that's okay because Kevin is interested. Obviously, though, he's not willing to do it for the 2%, and he says he doesn't want to negotiate against himself. So he asks her what she can offer him. Lori, being just absolutely Lori, then points out to Blaine that Kevin is the only man that she has left. And all of a sudden, Blaine seems more open to hearing from the women in the tank.
Are you open because the 2 gentlemen to my left and to my far right dropped out?
I think so.
Finally, Lori says that she's entitled to her opinion about what she thinks is best for her business, but Lori does not want to be sloppy seconds, so she's out. Barbara says she agrees with Blaine that she does need a happy, rich, good-looking guy to be her partner. Those were her exact words. And do you know who she says would be best for Blaine? Mark. For the second time this episode, Barbara is just pitching for Mark. It's fantastic. It's hilarious. Finally, Blaine comes clean, saying that this whole time she's had her eye on a specific shark who has shown a lot of empathy and kindness. Kevin says that there is no one kinder than him, and she says that she's worried about business being the most important thing to him. She says she likes business and making money, but she operates from a place of empathy and kindness.
Empathy and kindness are my middle names.
Finally, Kevin gets tired of waiting for Blaine to make him an offer, so he makes her an offer of $100,000 for 15%. Then Barbara immediately intervenes, asking Mark on Blaine's behalf if he would be interested in coming back in and making an offer. Again, Barbara does all of this unprompted. Mark starts his response by talking about how he's the luckiest guy in the world, and he says my new favorite official Mark quote.
When I die, I want to come back as me.
Mark then goes on to say, though, that he did used to be the ugly kid, so he understands the need for this product, but he needs her to give him a realistic offer. Her response to this is to just stand there in awkward silence. Just stand there. Finally, Barbara swoops in to save the day and be the matchmaker for her and suggests 15%. Blaine says, what about 8%? Kevin then points out to her that she doesn't have to take an offer, and Blaine says she wants to make an offer with somebody, she just can't do 15%, which obviously prompts the question, what can you do then? And she just starts awkwardly laughing and is like, I ate?
I mean, I offered 8 for my special shark.
Then Mark swoops in to save her and says he'll do it at 10%, and they end up making a deal for $100,000 for 10%.
I want a 6% commission.
And as usual, we get a great little ending clip.
And I had to save her from you, Kevin.
Final thoughts for this one. I feel like I gave a lot of my thoughts within it, so I don't feel like I have a whole bunch of final thoughts, but I think my biggest frustration in all of it was the numbers, not just not knowing the breakdown, but also not having a hard percentage for negotiating. Like 2% is just not serious. I just don't understand the mindset of coming on the show and doing stuff like this. Also, in the context of this episode, it was really funny to see Gavin go before her and just have everything, know exactly where it was selling, the numbers, all this, and then seeing this adult woman just be like, I don't know. Like, it was so funny to watch literally back to back. It was just like, oh my goodness gracious. But you know, good for her. You sell your classes. I'm just glad she has a better logo. That's all I needed. And that, my friends, is a wrap of season 15, episode 3 of Shark Tank. I have written notes for episodes all the way up to episode 6, and this one had by far the most notes. I do not know why. I was literally shocked when I read the number when I got done writing notes for that episode. Usually I get somewhere under 2,000, like between 1,600 and 2,000. This one was 3,569 words. I don't know what it was with this episode. If you've stuck with me this long, thank you so much. What did you think of the products? Is there anything you've tried or anything you want to try? Let me know all that and more in the comments. And until then, I'll see y'all in the next one.